Good afternoon. My name's Tim Markle. I'm director of the Southern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Healthcare Needs. We're out of the Waisman
Mm,
Center and part of the University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. I also serve as a co-chair for the Education Committee for the Autism Society of South Central Wisconsin. Waisman Center, South Central Wisconsin, as well as the Southern Regional Center have come together to sponsor this series called Hope for the Holidays, ideas to help us to celebrate and not stress over winter break. We are recording
mm,
this, so please be aware that if you ask a question or come in and chat with or talk to us, that this will be recorded and it will be on the internet. So please do not use any personal identifiable health information or personal information because we all know once something is out on the web, it
mm,
is there forever.
mm,
Would also like to remind you that if you do have questions or comments during the presentation, please feel free to use the chat feature. I will be monitoring the chat as Erin is presenting, and we will have time for questions and discussion afterwards. So that's enough about me. I'd like to bring
mm,
on Erin. Erin is a senior clinical social worker
mm,
at the Waisman Center Clinics and
mm.
Autism Treatment Program. She works with families across the lifespan to ensure they have access to community resources, are well supported in school, and identify ways to enhance family functioning. Erin hopes, and I am hoping with her, that she is able to maintain fun throughout this holiday
Mm,
season for her own children. And I'm hoping that
mm,
she is able to maintain
mm.
fun for herself as well, because in the midst of all that, Erin also is a friend of mine. So I'm really excited to
Mm,
have Erin here
mm,
today. So, Erin, thank you so much for being here. And
mm.
everybody, thank you so much for joining us over this lunch hour. And we hope you enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Tim. And I'm so glad that you all were able to join. I'm going to share my screen. I do have a little bit of a PowerPoint, but I want this to be casual. Are you seeing my PowerPoint? I don't think that you are. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Sorry, apparently I can't talk and work this at the same time.
You are not the only one who has ever had that issue.
Yeah.
I run into that issue pretty much every time that I
uh,
do a PowerPoint
uh,
online. I'm like,
uh,
okay, I know I'm supposed to hit something, but
yes.
I don't know which. There you go. I think
All
you're
right,
good.
here we go. Okay. Um,
Except we now do see your preview
oh
as well.
goodness. Okay.
So I think if you go to display settings up at the top,
Mm, up at the top where?
oh, next to that one, do you see something that says display settings
No,
next
because
to
I've
your
got
show
the
taskbar?
no, because the
Sure.
Zoom thing is
Oh, it's in the
blocking my
way.
view.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Let's see.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Let's see. Oh goodness. Uh, Sorry, guys. One moment, please.
I think this is when, like, growing up, we didn't have
Mhm.
cable. And so every so often the screen would just go blank and there'd be
Right.
lines across it that would just say,
Mm.
please stand by. And the joke in our house was always, can I sit? Because usually we were just sitting there watching the TV, wondering what the heck
Yeah.
happened.
How is that?
This looks golden, Erin. Thank you
Look at
so
that.
much.
Okay. So back to what I was trying to say as I was trying to navigate technology at the same time is that, you know, I do have a little PowerPoint to share with you, but I really want this to meet the needs of the people who are participating. So feel free to jump in if you've got questions, if things come up that you want to share. There is a lot of collective wisdom in this group, and I fully admit and acknowledge I am not the only person who's got good ideas here. So please throw out your ideas as well, because I think if you've had the thought or if you've had the experience, it will be useful to somebody else. So I think the first and most important thing is to really acknowledge our current reality. And right now, the CDC, the state of Wisconsin, and Dane County is really recommending that you avoid any activities that involve people outside of your immediate household. But I also know that when you are parenting a child with autism, which is parenting a child with special healthcare needs, what is right for your family may actually include other people and people that live outside of your household. So you may be relying on respite care, you may be relying on other family members to help provide care for your child with a disability or other children in your household. So know that we're trying to find that balance as we're talking about thinking about the winter holidays in what is safe in terms of COVID and what is the reality of people's lives right now. But I just want to acknowledge that there's sort of that tension. And I think families who have a child with a disability are really in particular feeling that tension of how do we navigate life, how do we keep everybody safe, and also kind of keep the wheels turning and keep your family running in a way that is managing everybody's health and safety and mental health. So when I was thinking about kind of what to talk about today and thinking about how do we help families navigate winter holidays, I kept coming back to this idea of like, what is happening now is not what has happened before and what will not happen in the future. And so I think we can use that also as a construct for thinking about what are you doing right now for those activities that you're going to participate in. So, I think the first thing is finding that balance between consistency and flexibility. So are there places where you're going to participate in some events and you want to think about how do we set up a schedule for your child? How do we set up a schedule for, oh, geez, Lisa. Okay. For your family that gives you some consistency in the day. And, particularly when we're thinking about going to an event or going to a family member's house, that piece of the day might be very different than what your child is used to and may not be what is your normal everyday schedule. And so thinking about other parts of the day. So if you're going somewhere in the afternoon, can we keep the morning as typical and routine as possible? So that there's some flexibility in what the day is going to look like, but there are parts of the day that are really consistent for your child, so they know what to expect. That there's that opportunity for them to feel success in the regular day, but then also participate in those activities that are important to your family. This is also where you think about both the individual day and the day of an activity, but also looking at a full week. And if you've got days that are go, 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 holiday focused, can the day before and the day after be more low key, more typical? Are you able to build in some of that flexibility for your child where they've got, okay, on Monday, we're having sort of a regular routine day. On Tuesday, we're go, go, go. On Wednesday, we're having a regular routine day so that we can really help your child to sort of navigate the changes and the fluctuations in the schedule, but give them some consistency and routine, because we know that it's important for children with autism. And it also allows your family to participate in those holiday events. I think we want to really make sure that we're setting clear expectations for the adults that are involved. So if you're going to somebody's home, really setting the expectation for them of, you know what, this child is not participating in unwrapping gifts. They might unwrap one of them and we're going to give them a lot of praise and reinforcement for that. But it's not a reasonable expectation for this child to sit through kind of everybody goes around, each child opens one gift, and then you wait for everybody else to open the next gift. That might not be a reasonable expectation, and it's not something that you as the parent is going to enforce. It may be around expectations around whether or not they participate in whatever meal is being provided. So you think about, if you've got a child who's a pretty selective eater or a child who has food allergies, you might say, you know what, this meal is not worth it to me to fight the battle about them sitting at the table and eating this specific food. My priority is being able to enjoy the meal myself. My priority is about being flexible about this entire day. So you know what, I'm just going to bring their favorite foods, and we're having chicken nuggets and tater tots because I know that they're going to eat that. I know that that is going to be we're all going to have more fun if this child has eaten something, and I'm not fighting the battle over food that gets served once a year. Tim, you look like you want to say something.
So, Erin, would you recommend that these expectations are placed upon the other adults the minute you walk in the door? Do you give them a 1 week notice? Do you put them in writing? What are the different ways that you can help the adults to be more comfortable in the environment?
So I think that's where you know your family better than I know your family, right? So for some people, you can just be like, oh, this is just what we're doing. Like, oh, what are you serving for dinner? I'm gonna bring some things to supplement for Johnny. Like that's just gonna make things easier. Or it may be, you know what, I know it's going to be a battle with whoever is serving the meal, no matter when I have this conversation. So I'm just going to have it once and not have to listen to it for a week prior, right? So you decide kind of where you're going to set that expectation, but and also setting the limit of the other adults are not allowed to then comment to your child about what you're doing. Like this, you are the parent. You get to decide whether the places where you're gonna enforce an expectation and whether the places where you're going to allow them an exception. Because maybe what you want them to be able to participate in is sitting at the table. And if sitting at the table is what's important, then that's where we're going to put our demand on the child. It's not about eating the same food, like, right? So we're finding that balance of where do we place a demand, and then that's what we're going to reinforce, and where are we going to set things aside. And that might change from year to year as your child grows and develops, but you get to decide where are the places where you're placing demands on your child with autism, and where are the places where you're not placing that demand. So
I'm going to let you go on. I'm going to stop interrupting you, but
yeah.
I just love the what is important, what is
Mm-hmm.
the priority, what is the focus of this is, because you're not going to be able to accomplish everything 100%. So where are you going to put your energy? Where are you going to put your plans? I think
And
that is so important.
a mom's group I'm in on Facebook, not necessarily related to children with disabilities. One of the things that somebody mentioned me recently is, what, mom deserves to enjoy Christmas too. And I think you can replace Christmas with any holiday or any family gathering. And you know what? The parents get to enjoy X just as much as everybody else. And if all you're doing is policing your child's behavior or policing the other adults in your life's behavior, like that's not fun for anybody. So why are we doing that, right? So I think thinking about where are the places where you're going to kind of help your child to be successful in participating in the traditions that are important to you, and then where are the places where this just isn't worth it for any of us. Oh, I think on the flip side, in addition to setting expectations for the adults, you also want to really prepare your child for the day, for the event. Really think about what are the things that you want them to participate in and what's important. And for some kids, that might look like a visual schedule and saying, we're going to go to grandma's house, we're going to eat dinner, we're going to open presents, we're going to go home. It might be a social story of what, receiving a gift is like. It might be talking through where are the places where they can go have some quiet time. It might be thinking about what are some toys we could bring that, if you're feeling stressed, you can go do this. Like, do we bring a Lego set? Do we bring a tablet? Do we think about um, what what can we do to prepare for you to feel successful? And then also, depending on kind of where your child is on the spectrum, what is your expectation for their demeanor, right? I think we sometimes kind of set kids up for like, this is what the day is going to look like. But also, it's important to me that you don't complain about, grandma made mashed potatoes and you don't like mashed potatoes, right? Like you can help set that up for your child. So, it's important to set the expectations for the adults about like how you want them to behave, but also helping your child to be successful. You might talk about what do you do if you get a gift that you don't like or you've already gotten, and how do you respond to that? So you can help prepare your child to be successful as well. So it's not about the adults all need to acquiesce and that your child with autism kind of gets free reign. Like that's not useful parenting, right? But it's also saying, okay, how do I help you to be successful on the places where I'm going to put a demand on you? And thinking about what are the places I can provide reinforcement? What are the tools I need to have prepared and brought with me for you to be successful? And and then also your child, whether you're kind of like things you're going to tuck in your back pocket that you can always pull out if you need them, right? But you're not necessarily going to tell them that you've brought, but you're just going to have them in case you need them. But really thinking through how getting your child to be successful as well. I think you also can think about practicing activities that you want your child to participate in. So if opening gifts as a family is something that's really important to you, you can practice wrapping and unwrapping presents. If receiving a gift graciously is something that you want to practice, you can practice silly things like unwrapping cleaning supplies and like pretending that that's something that you enjoy, even if it's not necessarily something that you want. So thinking about what are those skills that you want your child to be able to do more fluently. You can practice them over the next few weeks or prior to an event, and then they're better able to replicate that behavior when you are now at this event. I think the other thing you want to really think about is downtime and a space to take a break, whether it's considering do we pack multiple events into one day, which is probably not something anybody's doing right now anyway, like please don't. But if you're in a position where that's something that just needs to happen for whatever reason, is there a way to go home in between? Or is there a space at at grandma's house where you can go into the bedroom and have a little bit of time? Or you know what? Maybe it's we're bringing the tablet and I'm bringing the headphones and you can kind of have some opportunity to zone out, and that we're gonna build that in. But really giving your child a way to signal to you that they need a break without engaging in challenging behavior. And this is also the kind of thing that you're going to want to practice over and over again, before we get to that family event where you've got, you know, perhaps judgmental or not judgmental eyes on you, where you're really thinking about how much downtime does my child need, how much tolerance do they really have for um, participating in a large group event. It may, or and I think particularly right now where kids are having less and less opportunities to practice some of these social skills and be in large groups, it's not as fluent a skill as it may have been other years. So I think this is a place where we think about, how do we take advantage of an opportunity to be together in a group and practice some things that maybe we've not gotten to practice quite as fluently over the past 8 months. But also recognizing, because we've not had a chance to practice some of these things, the skill is probably more rusty than it normally is, and we need to build some space and support around it. Um, I think thinking about, what COVID does give to us, I sort of joke with lots of people about kind of our hashtag COVID blessings, right? Like it's hard to necessarily think through about what is really, an upside of COVID. But one of the things it does give us is it gives us this chance to evaluate what has worked for our family in the past and what has gone really poorly for our family in the past. So Gretchen Rubin is a writer who thinks about happiness and habit change. And one of the strategies of habit change that she talks about, and if we think about traditions as a kind of a annual habit, is kind of this idea of a clean slate, where when everything is different, your ability to make a change is a lot easier. So it can be hard on a year-to-year basis and kind of in regular times or in non-COVID times to be like, you know what, every year my kid has a big huge meltdown at church services, and we're not like, I can't do this anymore. But it's really important to grandma that we all go to church as a family, right? So like that can be a really hard thing to do in regular times. What COVID gives us in some ways is the opportunity to say, you know what, we're not going to do that this year. It doesn't feel safe to our family. We're needing to limit our participation in certain activities. We want to be able to come over and open gifts with you. So we're going to skip going to this church service so that we're not getting so much exposure, right? And then it also then allows you for next year to be like, well, we all survived last year when we didn't go to church together, and that was fine, right? So this really gives you the chance to evaluate for each thing that you do or that your family has historically done around the holidays, is think about what works for your child with autism, what works for your family, and what hasn't worked, what has always been a challenge, but you kind of keep doing it because it's the tradition or it's the habit. And so you have that opportunity to really evaluate. um, I also think it gives you the opportunity to evaluate things that you feel like you haven't been able to do. So like maybe the idea of pictures with Santa has been really hard, and thinking like, oh, this has not gone well. But now there's a drive-through option, and maybe that's something that you can do this year, or maybe your family has kind of historically done, you know 8 different nights of Hanukkah, with 8 different families, and that's just a little too much, right? But we're gonna do one outdoor gathering at a park, and that seems really doable, and your kid is gonna be really successful at that. So really thinking through, where are the places where you can actually add some new things that you've not done as a family because they've seemed too hard in the past, and now seem a little bit more doable because COVID has forced us all to learn how to do things in a different way. So, I think there's both kind of the positive and the negative of COVID. Like there's way more negatives than there are positives. But I think looking for those places where you can really reevaluate and really think through for your family, what are our opportunities here, and what are our opportunities to do new and interesting things that our family might really enjoy? What are the places to get rid of the stuff that just makes us stressed out and unhappy and isn't actually fun for anybody? And then, you've got the opportunity in future years to do more more of those things, because everybody will have survived doing it differently this year, right? So I think this is where you take advantage of a stressful situation.
Yeah, I love that. Again, looking at the priorities, what's important for this
Mhm.
relationship, what's important for this family. One of the things that I think about is the fact that as more families are connecting, over Zoom or over
Mhm.
online, it's like a normal expectation that that child may only stay engaged for like 3 minutes. And then
Mhm.
it's okay that they go off into the room. Maybe you bring
Yeah.
them back, maybe they don't, but they go off, they play, they do their own things. Whereas if you're over at grandma's house, it's sometimes like that child has to sit there for
Right.
hours as the adults are talking and
Mm.
doing things. And so it gives us the opportunity to do things differently, to
Right.
allow those children to take a break without having to be on
Mm.
all the time.
Yeah, so I think this is our chance. This is your year to kind of create that clean slate. I also think this is where you think about like what is really within your capacity and your energy level. So one of the resources that Tim sent out is this nice article about surge capacity, and really thinking about how we were feeling in the spring, and how like it, trying to figure out if you were working remotely or if you were having to go into work, and what that was like, and online school, and people really rallied, right? So like the idea of surge capacity is this idea that you've sort of got these built-in reserves that you can pull in for a crisis. Crises aren't supposed to last either 9 months or a year, right? So like you're kind of at the end if you've not already passed the end of your surge capacity. And so it also gives you an opportunity to evaluate what are the things that are really important to me, what are the memories I want to make with my children, and I'm going to focus my efforts on that, because I cannot do all the things as I normally do them. I do not have the capacity for it. And so you can really drill down in what's important for you and for your family. So I think if you're thinking about kind of holiday fun in COVID times, right? I think making a list of activities, make a list of what are the things that you want to do. And some of it might need to be kind of a bit of a drill down. So like, I was talking with families around Halloween, and yes, we couldn't do Halloween the way we normally did, but like what is the end of like what's the fun thing? Like, so if the fun thing of Halloween is eating a whole bunch of candy, well, that didn't go away in COVID, right? So if the fun thing in for your family is drinking hot cocoa and eating cookies, well, that doesn't go away because of COVID. It might not be that we're going to all get together and we're going to do a cookie swap, but you know what? You could probably do a cookie swap via drive-by, right? So you can really think about what are the activities that we love? How do we modify them for COVID times? And then also thinking about everybody contributing to that list in your family. And I also think that when you're making that list, also thinking about what number of activities is everybody allowed to opt out of, mom and dad included, right? Like you can, I think it gives your child with autism some say in what they're going to do and not do, but kind of the expectation of we're all doing some things as a family. And you can have sort of the non-negotiable list, and then the like, here are 6 things that some of us want to do, but not all of us want to do. So we're going to do them, but you're allowed to opt out. And you as the parent also get to opt out of some things. So you can decide like, where are the places where we're all doing this and we're going to all have a good time, whether we like it or not, because I don't know, some of the fun of family fun is forced family fun and everybody's doing it, right? But then there's also got to be some room for maneuvering, and what are the things that is important for each of us as individuals, as part of this family, to decide to do as a family. When you're thinking about virtual events, I think about how online school has gone for your child, right? So if you're struggling to get them to sit at the computer, if you're struggling to get them to attend, think about whether or not you're actually going to participate in a virtual event, or what you're going to expect them to do, right? Like, this is actually supposed to be fun, and it's not supposed to be work. And if all you're doing is trying to get your kid back to the screen, back to the screen, back to the screen, nobody is having a good time, so don't do it, right? I think also this is where you think about kind of how do you set your child up for success for like a virtual family gathering. Like maybe what our expectation is you bring one present or one thing to show grandparents and aunts and uncles on screen, and then you get to be done. So really thinking about how to be successful, but think about how your child is doing with online school, and kind of let that be your guide. And then also being really specific with your child about what your expectations are. What are your expectations for them, whether it's in real life, in-person event, or a virtual event? And then how do you reinforce it? And I think that is the most important thing. Is I think we're very good at setting up demands, but also particularly with things that don't happen on a regular basis, how do we provide kind of that high level reinforcement that's going to help them to be successful? Because there's a lot of things that happen at the holidays that don't really happen at any other time of the year, so it's not practical to do them, right? And so you think about where are the places where this is a skill that really you need year round, right? Like being gracious is probably a good skill for everybody to have all of the time. So this is just another opportunity to practice it. You know, opening gifts is what, a 2 time a year event. It's the winter holidays, it's your birthday, that's about it, right? So like this is, you think about where you want to focus your time and energy and efforts. I think the other thing I want to hit on, I don't know if anybody here is one of the family members as opposed to the parent of a child with autism. I think thinking about, if you're going to offer help, offer clear, specific help with no strings attached, right? So it's not, let me know if you need anything. It's, why don't I come over on Tuesday and help you clean the kitchen so you can bake cookies on Wednesday, right? It's clear, specific help and accepting no as an answer in a kind, clear way, right? I think checking in with caregivers before the event. So really thinking about what the day is going to be like. Is there anything that they need? You've got somebody coming to your home who's got a child with autism, saying, "Hey, do they need a quiet place to chill out? I'm going to set up this bedroom. Are there any food requirements? Is there anything that I can prepare? So, and I say this to you not just as thinking about us, and I say this as a parent of a child with food allergies. It's helpful to me to know what food is being served so I can make plans, right? This is also true if you've got a kid who's a real selective eater. This is true if you've got a child who can be a little bit more particular with things beyond kind of your average autism particular. If you know that there's a part of the day that's going to be a little bit more challenging, check in with those caregivers and offer them some support. Consider some ways to clear the path, right? So can you help think through for that family, like, we're serving dinner at 3 o'clock as opposed to we're serving dinner sometime after 3 o'clock. That those are two completely different messages. And so I think giving the parents some key points for them to be able to prepare their child to be successful helps your event go better as well. So I think thinking about what other ways that you can just kind of make things a little bit easier, looking around your home, are there things that are going to be very attractive to this child and it's going to be a real challenge? And how about I just put that away? Like, is it helpful to you if electronics are just put away and not readily available? What are the ways that we can just make this just a little bit easier for mom and dad? And I think more, go ahead,
No,
Tim.
I was going to say that reminds me of one of the things when our kiddos were little, and I have a
Mhm.
son on the autism spectrum. He's 23 now.
Mhm.
But when he was littler, we would constantly tell our relatives who
Mhm.
we would go visit, if you control the environment, you don't have to control the child as much.
Right.
So if you put all those things that you're worried about, whether it's getting into the VCR tapes or the China dolls,
Mhm.
I know it's your house. I understand.
Mhm.
But everybody's going to be a lot more comfortable if we don't have to keep saying, stay away from there. Stop that.
Right.
Go back. Nope. Don't do, nope. Nope. Control the environment. You won't have to control the child as much.
Right. And I think thinking about, like, if you're hosting people in your home, like, you want them to have a good time, right? And if everybody is on edge, and frankly, if you're on edge, worried about something's going to get broken in your house, like, that's not fun for you either, right? So if the more you can kind of smooth the way for the parent, the better. I think the better that child is going to behave, right? And so that's going to be more positive for everyone. It allows parents to put demands on those special holiday things as opposed to just like basic behavior management. And it allows you some opportunities for, like, I don't know, being a good person, which is, I think, always important. And I think above all else, really be gracious. So when, if the person says, you know what, this is what I'm doing, great, that sounds like a great idea, and mean it. That's the important piece, is when you agree to something, you've got to mean it, right? And really thinking about, how do you help that family to be successful? Like, life is hard enough. And so really thinking about, I want my home, I want my relationship with this family to be one of support and love and success. And so, even if what you tell me is, just let me handle all of the things, I'm going to be okay with that, and I'm not going to, be catty and gossipy on the side about, how you're parenting your child or whatever. That my home is a safe place for your family. So I think if you're on the family member end of things, really, if you think get nothing else from this is be gracious. So that is what I had to say. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can look at each other if people are so inclined. This is really, we've got about 15 minutes, Tim. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fantastic, Erin. Thank you so much. So we do have
Yeah.
15 minutes. Please feel free. I will keep an eye on the little microphones on my screen, so I could say, "Oh yes, somebody seems to like they want to say something," so I can keep an eye on that. Also, the chat is still open for questions, but I would say questions, about what Erin said, or any other suggestions, or stuff that's worked for you. I know we have a number of parents on the call that have navigated this path before. So, what else, in addition to what Erin has said, what else is out there that can help other parents? So, we'd love to have that discussion for the last 15 minutes. And just so y'all know, I only prepared 3 questions, so I'm out. That was the limit to what I prepare for.
I'm proud of you, Tim. I was
Thank you.
expecting more questions. So I mean, also, like, do you have a sticky situation that you want the collective wisdom of this group to help you navigate?
Yeah,
There's some, I'm looking at some names. There's some smart people on this call.
I know. Yeah.
I have a question.
Thanks,
for you
Erin.
guys.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know what a gracious way would be to ask like grandparents to give a child more time to respond to questions.
So I think one thing to think about is being really specific. Like, he does really well if I ask him a question and then I count to 5 in my head. It just gives him a little bit more time. I don't know if that would work for you, but I find that really works for me. So it's not about like you're doing this wrong. It's more a matter of like, you know what? This is something that I've tried and it seems to help me. It's not 100%. So I think, being a little equivocating, but also giving a strategy that might be helpful. Particularly if you're conversing over Zoom or, this isn't somebody that they see all the time. And I'm guessing nobody sees anybody all the time right now, but kind of that opportunity to be like, you know what? I found this has been helpful to me. It might work for you, it might not, but kind of giving that balance, rather than you like stop talking at him over and over and over again. Give him some space, right? Like just give a little strategy.
Yeah, thank you.
And this is also an area, I think, where depending on the family, your family members, you can sort of do a social stories type thing with them.
Right.
Is
Social stories for everybody.
Right. Remind them beforehand, okay, I'm gonna be my child, you be yourself. And we're gonna practice answering questions to remind you, because of the fact that you don't have this daily interaction. And then they get to ask a question, and then you could sit there, hold up your finger and do the counting in your head and then answer. So they start to get used to, because you're absolutely right. Our natural conversations don't really have pauses. People get really uncomfortable with them and they think somebody's not listening, but it's a processing thing. You're absolutely right, Erin. So let's practice that processing with the grandparents if they're open to it.
Also, if you can in real time sort of call out your own behavior, like where you ask your child a question and then you don't give them enough, like be like, oh, I should have let him. I'm not always great about doing this. And so sometimes I forget myself to give him some time. And so, I think if you can call out your own behavior too, even if you sort of have to like fake it can be really helpful. So it's not just you're noticing their bad behavior. This is something that we're all working on together to help support this child.
Thank you.
So, other questions, other scenarios that you're running into? It's hard. It's all hard. I think navigating the holidays with typically developing children is a challenge, right? And then you add a disability in, and particularly depending on how your family has reacted to this information or this this experience, I think can also make it a million times more challenging.
I have a question.
Great.
Go ahead, Danielle.
So we did a virtual Thanksgiving.
How'd that go?
And I think it actually went okay. I think the problem is you can't have more than one device. And so in order for everyone to see everybody, the device is really far away. And so then you can't read body language. You can't read and those natural conversation cues, like somebody's going to start talking and then you talk. Has there been anybody that's developed a way to have like individual devices in one room that don't give all that feedback, you know, within devices? Or is there a way to like, you know, say, raise your hand and have time?
I think if somebody is willing to be a moderator of the event, that might work. But I wish I had a good answer to that. I don't know that there's anything out there. Tim, I'm going to look at you, see if you know anything. I am not particularly tech savvy, honestly, so I don't have a good answer.
You have hit on one of the biggest, one of my biggest frustrations as well when we were trying to get together with friends for like virtual happy hours or whatever, is because I want my own device. My wife wants her own device, but what do we do with that feedback in the room? So one of the things that we have done is we have had two laptops, but only one of them has the sound turned on. So it's loud enough that I can hear still, but it's not feedbacking. It's not then going through my computer. So but you got to fine tune that. That's a pain in the neck. Some people have done everybody's on their phone, but they're plugged into a jack with headset and microphone, gives them a little bit more freedom to talk. Not perfect. But you nailed one of the biggest issues with these Zoom type meetings, is the fact that you're all crowded around this one thing.
Yeah, so and it just takes that moment, that special moment where you're saying thankful, what you're grateful for around the year. You know, if you all have headsets on and your own device, like it's not quite the same.
Or you have to be, if you have to be in different rooms.
Nothing says family togetherness.
Much of a gathering, right? Exactly. Doesn't really gather too much. And so that is an area though that you think about. Okay, what is the point of what we are trying to accomplish, and is there a way to accomplish it without doing it normal? Is there another way? Do we beforehand line up everybody according to their birth date? Line up everybody, you know, the order is going to be set by, you know, the oldest to youngest, so that and you lay it out. If your kiddo with autism may need a visual, so you have those pictures going, okay, this person's going to talk, and then grandma's going to talk, and then somebody's going to talk, and so you sort of could give them a visual list, and that way they also see where they're going to land on the list. So they're not surprised when all of a sudden grandma says, so what are you thankful for, little Timmy? I will blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm not ready. So think of different ways that you can accomplish the same task.
Let's be honest, in that scenario, I would also like to know where I am on the list, because I would totally have that moment of like, what am I thankful for? I'm not really sure. So.
We do have a question. Go ahead, Danielle.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, the kids were like, let's not do this again.
Right.
And I was like, oh, like we're planning something for Christmas. So we're modifying, and I like the idea of a moderator, you know, somebody, and I was trying to be that, but I think because we didn't set those ground rules beforehand, you know, and you have a wide age range. We had a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, you know, that like are like, look at my truck, everybody stop talking, look at my truck.
Right. That's how you make the memories, though. But I think setting, you know, if the adults can do a little coordinating beforehand and assign a moderator, that can also be really helpful too. And imagine the other thing I think about is, you know, and this, you know, of course it's all a little bit more work, but maybe it's more meaningful, so it's worth the effort of, you know, we're not doing a big, huge on Christmas Day 15 family Zoom, but over the course of between Christmas and New Year's, we're going to Zoom with each family, right? And so our family is going to get on with, you know, Aunt Susie's family on Monday. We're going to get on with Grandma and Grandpa on Tuesday, or on Tuesday, you know, so like we're going to do smaller, shorter chats with each family.
I definitely need something else to manage in my life, Erin. Thank you. I can now create a schedule, and I'll have people doodle poll and when to meet.
But
I like the suggestion.
In full disclosure, my individual family decided for Thanksgiving that we were going to a cabin and speaking to nobody. So I fully support that as an alternative as well.
All right, thank you for those tips. I do like the idea. We only had 4 families on, but it was still tough to navigate. And we've already kind of said, okay, Christmas time, we're just going to do this with this person and this with that person and separate them. So it's a good suggestion, though, if you have a bigger family. So, all right, thanks. Next question, Tim.
All right.
Nope, we're good. I thought there was a question in the chat, but it was a question to me, and I'm not sharing it. So it was a direct message. So I'm like, oh wait, no, they don't want that for the whole group. Okay, sorry.
This is not for public consumption.
My bad. So any other questions, comments, suggestions? This has been a really nice conversation. I've really enjoyed it. It's making me think of maybe things that I can adapt, because I know we're going to be on that Zoom call with my mom and my brother in Cincinnati and my sister other places in Ohio and the family in South Carolina and North Carolina. And it went better this time than it did for her birthday, but it still was a little weird. And so this has given me some thoughts about how maybe I can make it less weird when we do the Christmas call. So I appreciate it.
I think also, you know what, there's some value in acknowledging like, this is super weird. And this is not how families actually connect with one another. And like, I think just having that acknowledgement, like this is not how we would be celebrating if all things were equal. Or you know what, maybe if you're a family and you're like, this is fantastic, and let's do this from now on, because now I'm in my own house.
Never going to Illinois again, now that I know I can Zoom with those people.
Right. And now nobody is going to question when I'm feeding this child, and nobody is going to question why I'm letting him go play in his room for 20 minutes. And that is glorious. So you may choose to embrace the Zoom holiday, and I fully support you in that plan.
Yeah, just like my kids don't like to wear pants. Didn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's Zoom.
I'm going to have to really negotiate that with the university when I come back to working from somewhere other than my home. Whole like getting dressed thing, because I basically dress to be a professional from here up.
I have one last question. Last question.
Go ahead.
Great. Have you guys had any questions about how to do Elf on the Shelf when it's in quarantine? We do the kindness elves, and the kindness elves sent a letter from the North Pole that said that they can't come because of social distance and et cetera, but my boys' hearts are broken. They are broken that their kindness elves are not coming every day. And so I didn't know if any of the parents, if they have parents, had similar things or.
Can the kindness elves send letters?
Yes, they could. They sent a calendar of suggested activities. They were very involved kindness elves that, were a part of our family for 25 days of Christmas. But yeah, letters might be good. They have an email address, so we can also email them.
Excellent.
That's cool. Is it possible that they could all of a sudden receive a vaccine, or could they be determined to
are the kindness elves essential workers?
Right. So that there's the specialness of the North Pole is that they're immune.
I understand from Dr. Fauci that Santa is immune.
That's Fauci said that Santa's immune. Yes.
Santa's immune.
Well, so Mama needed a break. So I don't like hearing that there's a vaccine for them.
Here's what I will tell you.
What you need to do for your family, Danielle.
I know. My 3-year-old on the way home from childcare yesterday asked me if our elf arrived. And I informed her that our family does not have elves that come to visit our home, because I am vehemently not doing Elf on the Shelf.
Not doing the Elf on the Shelf every day.
That sounds like fun for some of your friends.
Yes, and some families
so I fully support
enjoy
your
it and get into it. Yep.
Yes.
Totally.
So I think if Mama needs a break, then the elf could come, but might need to quarantine in your home shortly for some amount of time.
Sure.
I know one of the teachers at the childcare had said that the elf had arrived at their house and was now masked and had some toilet paper and was in a little box quarantining for 2 weeks in her home. So that might be an option. So
That sounds like a wonderful break.
Yeah.
so that might even be
mean,
less work than the elf sending emails and
Yeah.
And maybe
So-
the elf will feel a little fatigued, so he can't
Mhm.
move for like 4 days. I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
maybe
you know-
he's got the vaccine.
Yeah, he's just
yeah.
feeling bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe Santa has heard from other children that they're very sad about the elves, and so he's decided that they can go, but they need to make sure they keep their families safe in quarantine for at least a week before they get to be out and about.
Get to be
Yeah, that would be
adventuresome.
great.
So
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and finish up.
Right.
Any last words, Erin, or reinforce anything that you said at the beginning? I'll just let you know that my memory is plan ahead, prepare your people, and decide what's important.
that I think the one gift that we can take from our COVID life is that you get to decide what's important, and you get to decide who's going to be in your bubble and who's going to be a support and an enhancement into your holiday celebration, and figure out ways to participate with those people, and then think about ways to kind of take advantage of being able to step back. You can blame COVID for once. It's not my fault. It's what it is. It's the government. It's the COVID. It's the whatever. And so take advantage of that and really taking the opportunity this year to decide what is most important for your family.
Well, thank you so much, Erin, and thank you everybody else for being on the call. We will be, if I could get the recording to work afterwards, we will be posting this and we'll let you know where it's posted if you want to refer back to it. But if not, thank you so much again for joining us for Hope for the Holidays. We will be back next week when we will be hearing from Alyssa Walsh, who is a psychologist at the Waisman Center, and she's going to be talking about preparing for and navigating transitions and changes in routine. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation as well.
If I can just give a shout out that Alyssa is fantastic. So if you are able to attend, you should definitely do that.
Nice.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut off the recording, but if anybody wants to just hang out and talk for a little bit afterwards, that's fine as well. So I'm not going to close the room right away, but I am going to stop the recording. So thank you all for listening.